Today I'm going to show you how to paint grass in watercolour with the help of masking fluid. So let's get the brushes wet and let's get started. First thing I want to do is just draw out some basic grass shapes, but not many, just a few. Just very lightly, barely touching the surface of the paper. And this is one where it sort of breaks away to the right. We don't need many really. And I want these pencil marks just to show through that wet and wet wash, which I'll be putting on very shortly. As you can see, I've got some colours made up all ready to go. So draw out the basic shapes that you want. Nothing flash, nothing too fussy. Probably have one going over there as well. Yeah, why not? Very light, barely touching the paper as mentioned. Probably heading towards the left, like that. Quite a large one there. Think about the curvature of your hand when you're drawing out. I'm using a 2H lead here and I'm barely touching that paper, just skimming the surface. Because I don't want to damage the paper either. And obviously take note as well the way that each blade of grass tapers down to a fine point as well. This one's got a bit of a twist in it. It's slightly wider around there, only slightly though. Now you can use masking fluid if you want to kind of reserve the white of the paper. And the one I'm using today is called FREEBIE Drawing Gum, and this is latex free, which I want to like about that. So basically there's no smell, not really, barely a little bit of a smell, but not much. Not the same as latex anyway. I just want to fill each individual blade in, and then once it's dry we can then start to apply the background colours. By the way, the colours I've got with my mixing palette here, starting from the top, working your way down, we've got the very dark blue one, which is a nice colour, that, isn't it? And that's a mixture, believe it or not, of Payne's Grey, phthalo blue, and ultramarine violet. I know, quite a nice triple mix, that, isn't it? The second one down is a mixture of Indian red and burnt sienna. And the third one is simply olive green. Now when you apply masking fluid, just make sure that you wash that brush out in a separate water pot. Because one thing you don't want to do is get masking fluid within your main water container. Because then that will mix with your brushes when you wash your brushes out in a bit. And because of that, it will end up inside all those bristles within those brushes. And you don't want to do that. Because then you can very quickly ruin your brushes. This is a very old brush I'm using today and it's destined for the bin. Right? Or for special effects anyway. Okay, that should do. Now I need that all to dry. Once it's dry, we can make a start on applying the background colours on. I do look forward to that because it's a nice wet and wet blended wash of colours. Okay, 1/2 inch mop brush fully loaded with water. Here we go. And you want to wet all of the paper. Allow the water to soak in as well. Okay, let it soak in. Let it go. Let it flow. Let it flow. Going to work it into the paper a little bit, but I don't want to disturb that masking fluid. So I'm trying to be very careful with that. I've got an old size 18 synthetic Pro Art brush. Okay, that's a series 007. Pick up your blue. And when I apply this to the paper, I'm not going to reload the brush at all thereafter. Okay, here we go. Ready? A bit more. About that. And start working your way down. Don't go back up. Don't go back up. Allow it to flow. Work your way down the paper, picking up the water on the paper. And that water on the paper will dilute the colour as well at the same time. And there you go. If it starts to pool up on the top of the masking fluid, because my board's on a bit of an angle here, which I prefer to use when I'm painting, just saves your back a bit, you know. Just dab off some paint off your brush like that. Then lift off very lightly before it dries, where it's starting to pool up. There you go, like that. And then we can add a little bit of this lovely mixture we've got of the Indian red and the burnt sienna. Just a touch of that around here. Just scumble it in to begin with. Take some off. And then lightly tickle it in. Next thing we need to do is add some green in there. I might just add a bit more water in that green, to be honest with you, and get a smaller brush. Probably a size 6 or something like that. Or in this case, a size 8. I'm going to add a little bit of green in here now, just to suggest a little bit of greenery in the background. That's all it's for. aim it the same direction. If you're working towards the left, do it like I'm doing. If you're working towards the right, then obviously do it the other way around. Just aim it that way. A little bit of greenery. Some slightly higher, some slightly lower. Just to suggest that there's more grass in the background. And that needs to dry. That's it. I know. That's the background just about done. But at least once it's nice and dry, we can then start to think about painting those grass blades. Meanwhile, I think I'll clean up this edge. Just with a little bit of kitchen roll. That's all I'm doing. As it starts to dry, you can add a few more details in there. These will still fade, but they'll stand out a little bit more than what we've already put on there. So it's all about drying time, it really is. So if picking up your paint a little bit, then add a few grass blades in there, like an indication of grass in the background still. Overlapping the lines while you're doing this as well. Right, okay, that's enough. It's so easy to get carried away. It really is. And I do that all the time when I'm working on a painting. You can keep going and going and going. Leave it to dry and then we can make a start on painting those grass blades. After, of course, we've removed that masking fluid. Right, that's nice and dry. So what we need to do now is lift off that masking fluid. So clean finger, right, and start rolling that masking fluid off the paper very carefully. Now normally when I remove masking fluid from a painting, I tend to go from the outside in, because if it does tear the paper, you want the tear to go on the inside because you can cover that up, can't you? Compared to a lovely plain background, apart from one little water blemish there. I'll do something with that later on, and I'll show you that at the very end. Yeah. Okay, I've got a small amount of lemon yellow, and I'm going to go for a size 2 brush. So something like that one there. Now, first thing I want to do is dampen down the grass blade. Yeah. Now, the edges aren't quite neat enough really, because where the masking fluid's been, it's left a bit of a sort of jagged edge. But I can neaten that up as I go along through the painting process. Grab some lemon yellow, then pop that on the paper, and allow it to soak in. You don't want it to completely dry before we add the next colour over the top, so leave that to soak in a little bit, then do the same with the other ones. Don't do this one, this is our main grass blade, this one, isn't it? The one where we've got the bird sat on the top. Remember, we're not painting the bird today, but this is just a demonstration on how to paint those grass blades. So let's do the same with a couple more. Think about that one drying all the time though. Now this has gone off a little bit, it's still slightly damp, so let's get some green, for olive green. We'll add this to the middle and just test it out first of all. Yeah, that's better. The reason why I don't want it too wet is because I don't want the paint to flow too far. So trying to control the flow of the water or the flow of the paint, that's all I'm doing here. Just by adding that in the middle. Still got to go darker than that, I know. But it's just nice to kind of add another colour in the centre there. Okay, now whilst that's still wet, I'm going to get some green. Pop that into another mixing bowl there, look. Grab some blue, pop that in as well. So there's more of a sort of deep green. Probably a little bit more green in there as well. Don't want it too bright. Yeah, that should do. Then add that in there as well. Just right at the very centre. Allow it to flow. If it's spreading too far, the paper's still too wet. Then towards the end of this grass blade, just add in a bit of our sort of reddy mixture we made earlier on for the background. So the Indian red and the burnt sienna. Just to there. Right, okay, these are still wet. That was just about dry now. So what I'm going to do, get some more of the olive green. I want to thicken this colour up a little bit more in there now. You can use whatever colours you want to use anyway, of course you can. This is where you can add this in the centre to begin with. Bit of paint on there. Just in the very centre. Then we'll start blending that out. We've already got our background colours on there, which is even better. Very lightly add it in like this, look. And we can define the very edge of this. I don't want to make it too sharp, or too dark, should I say, more than sharp. Just to there. Okay, clean damp brush. Okay. Then very lightly soften that back. Just very lightly though. Then our darker sort of bluey, the more green than blue colour. You can add that one in there as well, just to define a little bit more. Need that to dry, and then you can go over the top of that with some more details if you need to. But remember, we're not doing the details to that degree, not yet. We'll be doing them very shortly for this one here. Alright, okay, well that's all these little grass plates just about done there anyway. I can always tweak them and fine tune them as much as I want to as I go along. But let's just work on this one here. Now we can see the basic colours, where it's been kind of broken off or bent over, are obviously yellow and green. But we've got the bright yellow around this area here and then down the stem. So once I've dampened this down like I've done nowhere else, I'll be very careful how I choose my colours there. So I want this one to be much more detailed than all the other ones. This will be the centre of attention, which it would be if we had a bird on it, of course. So bright yellow, first of all, lemon yellow. Just on the joint around there. And then we can go in with a green, which is olive green. A bit more on your brush pull. Just down the left-hand side for now. It's quite bright, this part, isn't it? On the right-hand side it's really bright. So obviously that's where the light's coming from that direction, isn't it? So pop that over that side. Grab some of your duller colour as well. And bring that one into that as well. Just down there. Then very lightly, a damp clean brush, just blend that. And the same on this side. Remember, this is just the foundation washes. That's all they are. And we can adjust them as we go along. Just one of the darker greens on the inside of this area here. And the inside there. So now we've already got a little bit of shape there, haven't we? Just by doing that. I can just see where some of the masking fluid hasn't been removed. You do get that. Sometimes it's worth going over the top of it again with a dry finger and just very lightly see if you can feel anything that's left over. Then you end up painting over the top of the masking fluid and then think, oh dear, I wish I'd removed that in the first place. Our more blue version now, just on that side, quite pale. Move it around. And I'm going to drop in some of the richer colour in there as well. I don't know. Let's go for our olive green, shall we? Just in there. Drop it in. Now once these foundation washes are dry, then we can add some detail over the top. Size 2 brush. Thicken down your mixes a little bit more now. You can really start to add the details in on the paper now as well. This is a darker side, so the left hand side is a dark side. And then obviously that's going to be the light side on the right. No doubt, of course. Duh. And then add the details over the top. Very lightly, barely touching like that. Now when you look at the details around this area here, well, there aren't that many, are there? Not really, no. So what I'm going to do, get some more green, get some yellow, pop it in there. So with a lighter colour, just add in some basic light details, just showing through there, look. Barely discernible, but they are there. We know they're there, because we put them there. Map out the areas that you need to paint in for this little area here. Then, you want to start to fill those areas in. Think about the lightest tones first of all though, which is what I'm doing here. Just the lightest colours first, and then you can add the darker colours over the top. It's not really that dark in there, is it? Not really. No. Not really. No. No. Then a darker, deeper colour just inside there. Probably a little bit of this one. You can just see hints of this underneath there as well, which then sections off that yellow area within this part of the grass. Then you can use this creamy version for those deeper, darker areas. If you want to dull it down, you can. A bit more blue in there maybe, not too much. because that'll cool it down, won't it? I'm going to get some lamp black and a little bit of blue, all mixed together, nice and watery. Remember this blemish over the top there? Let's put in there what's called an M bird, letter M. And this is from the great Bob Ross, the oil painter, the late great Bob Ross. And you can create just a couple of M birds within this area here. So that's got rid of that little mark now, isn't it? Let's do one at a slightly different angle and probably slightly further away as well. I could even get a little bit of watercolour white, opaque white, just on the end of my brush like that. You can use white gouache instead. If you've got any questions about this, about the whites or the paints we've used today, please pop them down below in the comments section, okay? I will answer you. I look forward to kind of reading your comments. Now the white will come in handy for adding just a few extra highlights to the grass, just here and there. A little bit of water down there, I think. Just a few, not many. Add that extra white edge to it, which is where the light catches it, doesn't it? Probably in there as well. Towards the edge of this one. And also the edge of that one as well down there. The more water you add to your white paint, the more it will fade as it dries. So if you want a really bright white, in this case not too much, then you want to thicken that white down just a touch more. Then you need to make sure your white paint is more of a creamy consistency rather than a milky consistency, which is what it is on here. Now for more tips and techniques all to do with watercolour, have a look at the link to the top right hand corner of the screen. I'll see you there.